Hi, I'm Miranda Vaughn. I am the Reference and Archives Librarian here at the Mississippi Library Commission, and this is part 3 of our 4-part series on researching Black ancestry. So let's get started. Okay, so if you haven't seen our first 2 videos, definitely go back and watch them. In part 2 of this series, we talked about national records, websites, databases, places like the Library of Congress, that sort of thing. So definitely go back and check those out so you can get an idea of what resources are available on those platforms. And today we are going to start on part 3, which is going to be Mississippi records. We have just a couple of institutions and databases that we want to talk about that are specific to Mississippi. So again, this isn't every single resource in the state. This is just to give you an idea of what is available here so that you can be better informed when you start your research, or if you're a librarian or archivist, when you're helping patrons, to be able to point them in the right direction. So first, we're going to start here at the Mississippi Library Commission. I want to start off by showing you how to access our online catalog, which we'll go ahead and go into. You can access this if you go to our website and click on the quick links. There'll be an option to get to our catalog. This is what it looks like. This is what I normally do when I'm helping people with their research is go into our catalog, because we have so many different resources, and most of our Mississippi genealogy resources are going to be divided up mostly by county. And it varies from county to county what kind of resources are available. Some counties have more documentation than others. So it's best to start at the catalog, and that way you can kind of see what we have in-house and what's available to you. So just to give you an example, recently I was researching someone in Newton County. So let's just go there. And so this is kind of what I did when I was trying to help this person find documentation related to one of his ancestors. I just typed in the county. I knew that that's where the person was from. I wasn't sure about cities. And again, depending on how far back you're trying to go, a lot of those borders and city names and things like that change over time. So it's really best to kind of focus on the county, because most likely that's going to stay the same. And that way you can kind of find what cities and towns and things that you need within that county. So as you can see here, a lot of stuff comes up for Newton County. We have some newspaper holdings. We have right here land records of Newton County, marriage records, various histories and censuses. So this just gives you an idea of what kind of things you'll find for the different counties. Again, they'll vary from county to county, but that's really the best place to start when you're researching in the catalog. And of course, you can just click, we'll click here on the marriage records. It tells you where to find them on the shelf. These are not digitized. These are going to be items that you're going to have to either email us if you're out of state or too far away to actually come to the Library Commission to look at them yourself. You can email our reference staff or call our reference staff, and we would be glad to retrieve whatever book you need and send you information from it. And at the end of the video, our reference staff information is available if that's something that you're interested in. Otherwise, this is something that we have on the shelf here. It gives you all the shelving information so that you can find it here, look through it, make copies, whatever you need. So that's just kind of how to navigate our catalog. Of course, you can look for all different kinds of things. If you're looking for specific newspapers to see if we might have them, you can type in that newspaper here in the search bar and look that up. Our newspapers are mostly on microfilm. And a lot of these records are actually going to be on microfilm. As you can see here, the WPA information from Newton County is on microfilm. That's also online too. We're going to talk about that a little bit later. But that's basically what you get when you're looking at our catalog, and I would advise you to start with our catalog, which you can access from home, and just kind of see what we have. We house all kinds of records for the different counties: cemetery records, marriage and death records, county histories. I'm going to show you the maps that I'm talking about here in just a moment. Confederate pension applications, which can be helpful if you have ancestors who fought in the Civil War. Those applications are going to have things like names and addresses and that sort of like contact information pretty much for those people. That can be really helpful. And again, newspapers can always, they provide obituaries, all kinds of information. But the maps are really interesting, and I want to show you here. This is an example of a family map from Newton County. The same person that I was helping research recently, we were looking for one of his ancestors, and one thing that we have for most of our counties are these historic family maps. And I'm just going to show you how this worked for the person that I was helping. As you can see here, this person right here, Frank Chapman, that was the person's ancestor. And he was, previously enslaved. And this is the land that you can see here in 1892 that he owned, this little plot of land here. This can be very, very helpful if you have checked out the 1870 census, which I've mentioned before is going to be the first census after emancipation. So that's an important one. And you can find your ancestor's name, but you're not really sure where they were before that, maybe when they were enslaved. If you don't know who their enslaver was, where they lived before then it's a really good idea to check the surrounding areas of where they are located once they're free, because most people did end up staying where they had been originally enslaved. So you can look here, you see all of these names all around Mr. Frank Chapman. And if you start doing your research, you might find that one of these people that he lives around may have been the family who had enslaved him previously. We actually already knew for this situation that, let me find them, that Mr. Abel Chapman here was actually the person, he and his brother were the people who had enslaved Mr. Frank Chapman down here. So you see they're not very far apart, just these little blocks. And I don't think I saved it here, but the page after this one shows you the same land grid or whatever, but without the people's names. It shows you the actual location so that you can figure out, it's like an actual land map, so that you can figure out the exact like location that they were, what town or community or whatever it was that they were living in these blocks. So that can be very helpful to fill in the blanks if you're not sure about previously, about who previously enslaved your ancestors. Just look at these family maps. You can look at other records as well, but this is a nice visual where you can find options for people who may have been previous enslavers. So I thought that was really interesting. The patron who we sent this information to was very grateful for it. He also was found it very interesting. So definitely check out these family maps. They're usually in like bound books that are in the county records here. Oops. Go back. The WPA records. We have the WPA records here on on microfilm. I think we might even have some in print, but the majority, or the best way to access them is going to be online. We have them digitized now. Let me go to, if you go to MLC Services, Information Services, this of course is on our website here at MLC. Click on Information Services, which is where I live here. Okay, so if you come to our Information Services page here and you go to Reference Services, and then right here you can click on Online Resources. And you have a bunch here. But if you scroll down to the bottom, you'll see Mississippi's WPA County files. They've been digitized and they are searchable on PDFs. Yes, and so you open them up here and you can click. We're just going to stick with Newton County right now. There's a good many of them, so it takes a minute to load. But once it loads, again, it's a PDF file, so you can just scroll down through. I've talked about WPA files before when it comes to county histories, but basically they cover just a myriad of areas of history. They talk about local churches, they talk about local schools. Again, most of these were collected in the 1930s, so there's going to be some language that's not going to be very kind at times when it comes to African Americans, non-white people, really. So just be mindful of that. But they do have records usually in Mississippi anyway, I've noticed, of Native American populations, African American populations. They do talk about those. So there is a little bit of diversity here. And like schools for Black children are listed, Black churches, that sort of thing. So you can get a good bit of information from them. Okay, and this is what they look like. Again, a lot of pages. This one has several hundred pages, and you can just scroll and until your heart's content and find all kinds of information. So just be aware of these, that they're available online. They have a lot of good information in them. We use them a lot when we're helping patrons with genealogy research. So that's how you access those, through our website. Get back here. We also have state documents and digitized collections, which these aren't like specific to genealogy or anything. A lot of them are state agencies and such. If you go back to that Information Services page and look on state and federal documents, you can click here to go to the website and you can see the documents that we have digitized. This is the state documents digital collection. There might be some documentation, photographs, things like that in there. This is not, most likely not going to be something that's going to give you like records as far as like birth dates, death dates, names, and that sort of thing, but it can provide what I consider supporting documentation and just interesting information if you're just trying to find out more about your family. All of this isn't just to get you names and dates to fill in your family tree. A lot of this, part of the Researching Black Ancestry, is getting that supporting documentation so you have a full story to refer to. So go back here. And last, I just wanted to show you our state depository program page. This gives you an idea of where state agencies send their stuff, send their records. The academic libraries, public libraries, and state agencies that house the records of other state agencies and publications, in case that's something that would be helpful in case you have, you know, any kind of connection to state agencies when it comes to researching your family history. That's just to give you an idea of where things are located. So that's just a nice little extra tool there that I thought might be helpful as well. So we have a lot of stuff at the Mississippi Library Commission. A lot of the records that we house are found in other institutions throughout the state, but of course we want to show you what we have and hope that you'll utilize our resources here if you are able. Next, we have the Mississippi Department of Archives and History, which also has a lot of good records. They have a lot of the same county records and stuff that we have. I'm just going to show you their website where they have their collections. This is their website, mdah.ms.gov. You can click on collections and archives collections. And if you are researching at MDAH, the way to access, this is how you access their online catalog, so you can see what they have available. A lot of their more commonly used research tools and searches are listed here below, so check those first. They have some of their indexes are on here, so you can search things, but you can't actually look at the documents themselves unless you actually go to the facility. And they do have some digitized records. They have their digital archives here that you can look at. As you can see here, they have the African American Confederate pension applications, which we also have at MLC, but I wanted to show you they actually have a searchable database where you can type in your family member's last name and first name and search for them that way. So that's an option that might make it a little bit easier to find those. They also have court records, again, newspaper holdings, lots of different manuscript collections if you're looking for photographs and things like that. Let me go back here. They have Freemans Bureau contracts and marriages as well, which you can see here. I've talked in previous videos about the Freedmen's Bureau. It was created after emancipation to help the free Black people with, getting jobs, getting housing, that sort of thing. So they have the index here that is searchable. If it's an index, that most likely means that you can search it on here, but you would have to actually go to the facility to retrieve the actual documentation that you're looking for. That's what that looks like. And then this is the one for marriages. So if you're looking for names of husbands and wives and whatnot, you can search here. You can search by bride's name, date of marriage, groom's name, that sort of thing. So that's also part of the Freedmen's Bureau records, and that is searchable for you as well. Anything from the Freedmen's Bureau can be very helpful when it comes to researching Black ancestry or Black history just in general. So if you're trying to find, the best thing to do is to try to find as much from home as you can, so that you're not having to travel and show up and just start when you get there. It's best to have some sort of game plan in place. So these catalogs are available online for you to search until your heart's content. So I encourage you to do that. And then you can kind of get an idea of what these repositories house and what you need from them before you actually make the trip to the physical location. I already mentioned the Confederate pension applications. Those are very helpful if you had family ancestors who served in the Civil War. The court files I also mentioned, they're going to have a good many of those, which can give you information about land and depending on what you're looking for, those can provide information for you. They also have genealogy files that are like already made up for specific families. They don't have a ton of these. They just have, ones that have been donated over the years, but you can search their genealogy files on their catalog, and you can search your family name, and they have already made up files that just contain like newspaper clippings and other genealogy research that have been done by other people that you may want to check out. It might be worth checking out. And then the county records as well. Mississippi Department of Archives and History does do research for the public, but there is a fee. Of course, you can contact them to figure out like what those fees are and if that's the best route to go. But I did want to mention that, and I've mentioned it in our previous video as well, that some of these repositories will help you out as far as like doing research so that you don't have to actually go to the physical location, but there are often some fees involved. So just be aware of that beforehand. It's, sometimes it's worth the fee and sometimes it isn't. So that's just an informed decision that you need to make for yourself. But this is one institution that does charge for some of those services, but they also have a lot of really good information. So just weigh the pros and cons and make that decision for yourself. The Mississippi Digital Library is a fairly new resource. It's only been active for a couple of years now, I believe. They do not have the county records that MLC and MDAH have, but they do have a lot of photographs and documentations, that the supporting documentation that I mentioned earlier, that can be very helpful and very beneficial. So I'm going to show you what their site looks like. So this is the Mississippi Digital Library's website. They have been partnering with different institutions throughout the state to digitize various records. So a lot of the institutions that I'm talking about in this video actually have some collections on the Mississippi Digital Library's website. You can go up here to kind of look at their partners and see who all has collections that are digitized here. See, the Mississippi Department of Archives and History actually has some digitized records there. MLC, we have a lot of photographs that are digitized through MDL. So a lot of different libraries and historical societies here. So this is a good place specifically for photographs and, documentation as far as like, I always want to say journal entries and things like that, but photographs specifically, those photographs are just so valuable when it comes to family research. You want to have some sort of visual, you want to be able to see these people you've never met, it's important to have those photographs. So they have a lot of that. Yearbooks are also another thing that a lot of their partners have digitized through MDL, and yearbooks are something that I personally feel like you don't really, or I don't think about when I'm thinking about genealogy research, but they do offer a lot of photographs and a lot of like piecing together when you're coming to, or when you're talking about the timeline of your ancestry. So Alcorn State, which is a historically Black university, has a yearbook collection here that is digitized. They have college catalogs and yearbooks, so you can click on the yearbooks and you can go through. If you have ancestors who attended Alcorn, you can look through their yearbooks on here. So that's a really nice resource, and I encourage you just to look around on their website if you get a chance, because they have all kinds of different collections from different institutions, and you never know what you might find. And then we also have the Tougaloo collections through the digital library. Tougaloo and Alcorn are both HBCUs. So again, you're gonna find a lot of information about Black ancestry through them. They have papers that belong to actual families here, so that can be very helpful if if your family is associated with any of these families or has any kind of connection, those can be interesting to look at. Just give you an idea of what it looks like when you're navigating this. You know, you click on this, click on an item, it makes it bigger. Anyway. But yeah, MDL is a great tool, especially for more visual resources. So definitely check them out. The Singing River Genealogy and Local History Library is also a really good resource. It is located in Pascagoula, and they actually recently started digitizing a lot of their records through MDL. So that kind of ties together. I'm just going to show you their website. This gives you a little bit of information about their library. It houses approximately 5,000 volumes, including family histories, guides to genealogical research, census, city directories, and cemetery records, state and county histories, death records, land records, all kinds of things like that. And they do cover Mississippi, Alabama, and Louisiana material. Because they are in South Mississippi and on the coast, their information can be really helpful if you have family members from that area, of course, but also when you're thinking about going even further back in your family history. Any coastal towns just across the board are gonna be more likely to have information about like immigrants, people from other countries, and possibly even transatlantic slave information. I know New Orleans and Mobile, Alabama were two major port cities for the transatlantic trade. For the transatlantic trade, slave trade. And so those areas, of course, are going to have a lot of information about enslaved people who came to those ports. And I'm not sure how much history is there on the Mississippi coast, but whatever is available, the Singing River is a great resource for that. And they also, again, their digital collections on the Mississippi Digital Library's website they're constantly adding more to it. They have Hurricane Camille photographs, these letters and papers from other families. So definitely check out what they have to offer. Since they are primarily dealing with genealogy, they're going to have a lot of great resources and a lot of good advice. So I encourage you to check them out. And especially if you have family from that area, they're a great resource. And then finally, I wanted to talk about some university collections. Universities normally aren't associated with genealogy research quite as much as public libraries and special libraries, but they do have a lot of collections, just like the Mississippi Digital Library, that are good for finding that supporting documentation, the photographs and the journals and the family papers and whatnot. So I just wanted to show you the websites of a few of our universities here in Mississippi who have collections that might be helpful to you in your research. So first we have the University of Southern Mississippi. This is what their libraries page looks like. And they have a lot of really helpful guides that you can find if you go to their special collections section. You can see up here under resources, they have finding aids for their collections, which is very helpful. The finding aids just kind of give you a summary of what's in those collections, what they're about, so you get an idea of what they are before you actually go and look at them. They also have research guides. And the first one on the list is an African American genealogy research guide. And so you can click on that, and they have all of these different tools that can help you, and information that can guide you in the right direction and give you an idea of what they might have in their collections that can help you as well. Universities often have a lot of diverse collections because primarily the collections that they get are related to the university or donated by alums. And sometimes the people who are the alums who donate collections to these university libraries have all kinds of random stuff in their collection. So universities end up with a lot of stuff that you probably wouldn't associate with the university. So they're a lot of fun to look through because you just kind of never know what you're going to find there. So Southern Miss, of course, is a really good one. They have a big Mississippiana collection. So that's going to probably have a lot of information that would be helpful as well. Also, Mississippi State University Libraries has a lot of good resources for genealogists. If you go to their collections tab here, you can kind of navigate as you need to. Go to their special collections. Excuse me. They have manuscripts. They also have a Mississippiana, which is all going to be, excuse me, related to the state of Mississippi, and their university archives. So that kind of shows you what they have there. They also have some digital collections that you can look at from your home or from your public library. And so that just gives you an idea of what they have. And then I wanted to show you Against All Odds. This is a project by Dee Baldwin, who works for Mississippi State Libraries. She's been working on it for several years. She's still in the process of finishing it, and it is a collection of the first Black legislators in Mississippi. We had a lot of Black legislators that were elected during the Reconstruction era, and a lot of times they kind of get lost in our history, but this includes a list of legislators here, and you can click on them and it has all kinds of information related to those legislators, some of them more than others. Here she has a couple of newspaper articles that include information about those legislators. There are other, let's see what else we can. This one doesn't have as many. Anyway, you can go through here and look and see if any of your ancestors served as legislators for the state of Mississippi. You're probably going to find them on this website, along with other documentation that Dee Dee has put together that pertains to those legislators. So I know that she has had a lot of people from out of state who are researching their family history who have used her website and gotten a lot of good information on it. So definitely keep that in mind. You can navigate it through the website here, or you can go to the Mississippi State Library's website, and it's going to be under digital exhibits. And so you can navigate it from there too. So if you're on Mississippi State websites, State Library website, check out the digital exhibits as well. And the Against All Odds page is on there also. And then I already talked a little bit about some HBCUs who have digitized collections through the Mississippi Digital Library, but I did want to point out that HBCUs are a good resource because they are historically Black colleges and college and universities. So obviously they're going to have stuff about Black ancestry there. I'm going to take you to the Tougaloo page. Tougaloo is here in Jackson, or right outside of Jackson. This is their Archives and Special Collections page on their website. They have a nice civil rights collection. A lot of the Medgar Evers related stuff is owned by Tougaloo. They have also partnered with the state archives to house some of their stuff. So some of their records may be at the college or at the university, and some of it may be housed at MDAH. But they do have, this section has information about what's housed at MDAH. So yeah, again, for that supporting documentation, this can be really good and really interesting. And so that's an option to check out as well. But if you have ancestors who attended any of the HBCUs in the state, definitely check with those libraries to see what kind of information they have you know, yearbooks, things like that can be really helpful as well. And as I said, that's not every resource that we have in Mississippi, but those are kind of some of the top ones to give you an idea of what institutions house what types of records. And so that way you know where to start and where you need to go from there. So that concludes this video. Our next video and our last video is going to just talk about additional resources and guides. We're just going to give you, you know, a little bit more advice about how to go about doing research on your Black ancestry, and any resources that we didn't cover in these last couple of videos. We'll try to cover there, some printed resources, things like that. So definitely check that out. And this is our contact information for our reference staff. Again, we are happy to help any librarians, archivists, patrons, people who are doing your own genealogy research. We are here. You can contact us by email or by phone. We love to help people with their research. So definitely reach out if you have questions about any of our videos. If you're interested in having a genealogy workshop at your library, anything like that, we can help you with that. So definitely contact us. Thank you so much for tuning in, and we will see you next time.